Today, I'm having a conversation with Khaled Mezayen, the founder and CEO of Inovaya. Inovaya is a French startup that's building decentralized water treatment plants. And there's two sides of their business. One side is working with industrial companies on treating and reutilizing the water they use in their industrial processes, either on site or adjacent to the site. And second, they work with municipalities and governments on treating groundwater at the source to make that water drinkable. Now, I've gotten to know Khaled over the last several years as, in full disclosure, I am an early investor in Inovaya. I'm a big fan of what they're doing and the problem that they're trying to solve. But we talk a lot about how water works, why we need to move from viewing water as a utility towards a resource, and then how Inovaya is addressing the problem from moving us from a centralized system of treatment to a more decentralized system of treatment. So obviously, everything that they're doing is highly aligned with moving us more towards a decentralized real economy. I'm excited for the conversation. I hope you enjoy, and remember to go direct. The man, the myth, the legend, Khaled Mezayen.
Mezayen. I know Mezayen.
Mezayen. What's going on, man?
I'm fine. How are you, Jordan Wolf?
Good. All right, so I'm excited to sit down with you. Obviously, we're close friends, and I'm an investor in Inovaya, which we'll get into. But I'm excited to talk to you today about the most critical resource in the world that most people know nothing about, and that's water. So I know there's two parts to Inovaya's business, just for everyone listening. One, which is Inovaya treats groundwater to make it drinkable. And then two, they also work on treating industrial effluents to help companies be more efficient and reutilize water in their industrial processes. So Khaled, let's start with this. Can you explain how water cycles work?
Yeah, of course, I can explain. So first of all, sorry for my bad English. Sometimes I will have, my French accent, maybe sometimes Arabic accent, but yeah, I hope that it will be clear for everyone. So the water cycle, so basically since the beginning of times, we have the same amount of water on Earth, and the water is integrated into a big cycle called the water cycle, the big water cycle. So everyone knows this picture with the salty water which is evaporating, going into clouds, and then it's raining, going into the groundwater, mountains, rivers, and then goes back to the sea and evaporates. The idea of the big cycle of water, which is completely false, because the reality is that the big water cycle is also including the green water. So what is the green water? The green water is the water that is um, um, into trees, soil. It's everywhere, because water is at the base of life for trees, for plants, for humans. And this water is captured everywhere. Basically, the blue water that we see represents the soft water, represents only 2% of the total water on Earth. 5% of this water is salty water, and the rest, okay, is soft water. So it's around 4 or 5% of soft water. But most of this water is in the North Pole and South Pole, captured into the ice, okay, into icebergs also. And you have also soft water in rivers. So this represents 0.2, 0.3% of the total water. And you have the green water, so the water that is captured into plants, soil, etc. So this water evaporates. This is called the evapotranspiration of plants. And this will go into clouds. So it's not only from the rivers and from the seas. It evaporates, creates clouds, and then it rains or snows, goes into mountains, goes into our soil, goes into groundwater, and basically all the water that we use for the human usage represents less than 1% of the total water that we have on Earth. Is that clear for you?
It is. So let me summarize just to make sure that like we kind of we understand it to frame it up. So what you were saying is there's green water and blue water. Blue water is the water that we see, but blue water only represents 2% of the overall amount of water in the world. Is that correct?
The blue soft water that is drinkable, or soft water, not salty water.
Okay, so sorry. So I got to step back. So because you initially said the green water is 98%. So did I misunderstand that?
No, no. Yeah, it's a misunderstanding.
Okay.
It's 95, 96% of total water is salty water.
Salt water. Okay.
And you have 4 or 5% of soft water. Only 1/3 of it is the blue water, and 2/3 of it is green water of this soft water. Is that clear?
I gotcha. So 1/3 of the 5% or whatever. Okay. I understand.
Exactly.
Okay. And and then I've heard you talk about the is there something around the big water cycle or the primary water cycle and secondary water cycle, or did I just make that up?
No, there is the big water cycle, which is the cycle that is a natural cycle.
Okay.
And you have the small cycle of water that we call small cycle of water,
Okay.
which is the cycle that is used for human usage. So basically,
Okay.
when we take from the big cycle, we take water, like soft water. This soft water, we take it, we use it, we put some trash in. Okay, this goes into wastewater, and this wastewater then is treated and gets back to the big water cycle. Is that clear?
Understood. Okay. So let's I just want to make sure we're understanding the right terms. So when you say soft water, what do you mean by soft water?
The water,
Without salt. Okay, got it. So so what we say fresh water.
fresh
Okay.
water, yeah.
Okay. And then so salt water and fresh water fresh water is about 5% of all water, because the rest is what you refer to as green water.
Let's summarize, okay?
Yes, let's do that.
96% of the total water is salty water.
Salty water.
Yeah. 2% is blue water. 3%, 2 to 3% is green water. Is that clear?
Understood. 95% of all water on Earth approximately is salt water. And then the
Yeah.
remaining 5% is split into more or less 2% what you call blue water, and then 3% of the green water, which is in the plants and in the trees and all that. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, now we're ready to move on. All right. What is groundwater?
So groundwater is the water that you have in rivers, but also in the soil that is imprisoned into the, what we call, in French we say nappe phréatique. I don't know how we say it in English.
Wait, look.
But I can search for it. Right.
Yeah, sure.
It's water table.
Water table. Yep. Okay.
So this is a water table.
Okay.
And basically, if I look back and look at the French way of using water,
yes,
for drinking purposes, basically we use 60% of groundwater from rivers and 40% groundwater from table waters.
Okay. Understood. Okay.
So basically, those are the deep, the water that are the water that is imprisoned in the soil, and that you have to dig into in order to take it back from the soil.
Got it. Why? So one of the things that like I didn't understand at the beginning, most people don't actually, is why can't we drink rainwater? Rains all the time. Why can't we just do that and treat it like we do other water and then drink it?
Rainwater is water without minerals. So basically, we need water with minerals for our body. Basically, so if you drink water without minerals, it's not a big issue. You can drink it at one point, but in long term, it can create health problems because you don't have enough minerals into that water. Is that clear?
It is. So it's not necessarily something where if you drank rainwater, it's bad for you. You just don't get any benefit from it.
It's not good in time. So drinking only water without minerals is not a healthy thing. So in time, it can create, like, there are some parts in the world where we use a lot of reverse osmosis systems in order to treat the water. So we remove basically all the minerals, such as in the rainwater. And those technologies make that when you have it in Cambodia, for instance, where you don't have a good mix of food and nutrients that you add to your body, drinking this water can create very huge health problems.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for elderly people and also for kids. It's pretty bad for their body.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so let's talk about. So first, I want to talk a little bit about drinking water. Then we'll move over to the industry side.
Yeah.
So today, in most places, if you live in a city or in Western countries, um, whether we're drinking tap water most of the time. So can you just talk to me about like the flow of where, like the source of that water, how it gets treated, and how it kind of typically arrives at someone's apartment or home?
Yeah. So as I told you, if I take the example of France, but it's basically the same in the US. I am not sure about the real number in the US, but I can give you the numbers in France. So we take groundwater, so or from rivers or from the table water. Then you have um, w- water treatment plant. This water treatment plant will pump the water according to its quality. You will put some treatments, so it can be only a disinfection. So you just add some chlorine, or a UV, or a filtration, a basic filtration, because sometimes you have sand. You can have different pollutants into this water. So you treat it, then you add some chlorine into that water in order to keep it safe uh, without in order to keep it from the development of bacteria inside. And then you have a huge pumping station that brings the water into a network that brings the water to your building, your house, and then you can drink it. Or you can use it for showering, for your toilets, for your different usages. Basically, you use 2 liters per day for drinking purposes, and on average in France, we use 150 liters per day per person of drinkable water, but for different usages. So basically, we use around 70 liters per day for showering. This is the biggest part. Between 20 and 40 liters of water for your for and then you have washing purposes. You have also irrigation or watering your plants. And this water then will be considered then when you have used it as a wastewater. So what you drink, you will evacuate it through urine, okay, that goes to your toilet. So basically what comes in goes out. So there is no water that disappears, okay?
Okay.
And then it goes into another piping, which is the wastewater piping, then goes into a wastewater treatment plant. This water will be treated basically with bacteria. Bacteria will eat the pollution, and then this treated water will be given back to the big water cycle. So basically we throw it into river
After treated.
after treated.
Okay.
But you have to know that 85% of the wastewater in the world is not treated uh, before uh, uh, before this at the end of the water, the small water cycle.
Okay. So just to summarize, so to make sure I understand this correctly, you have so the treatment plant that's taking water from groundwater is that's a different treatment plant than a wastewater treatment plant, or are those co-located together?
No, never,
Never
never.
okay. And so then I receive water at my home, of which the vast majority is used for non-drinking purposes. And that's called gray water, correct?
Then it goes to gray water or dark water
Okay.
if it has feces or urine. This is dark water. Gray water is like from showering, you know. So that is polluted with soap, with dirt, without feces and urine. We call it gray water.
Okay, and dark water is feces or urine. And so if you're so let's just take the example of I'm at home. I have two I have a pipe coming into my house that's giving me drinkable water, and then I'm taking a shower and washing my dishes. That water goes back out to a wastewater treatment plant. And
Exactly.
then but that's made for gray water, and then there's a separate line that's used for toilets with urine and
Not
feces.
today. Not
Not
today.
today. Not today.
The gray water and the dark water are mixed.
Okay.
So this is the centralized model that we have. All those water are mixed. So basically, that's where is the big problem also, because you have the same treatment for two different pollutions or three or four different pollutions. Our wastewater treatment plants are designed to treat only some pollutions. Okay. So that's where is the big problem.
Okay.
One of the big problems of our uh, our model. And there is another big problem, which is the fact that we have to produce only drinkable water for all of our usages. So it means that we have a lot of waste of energy in order to produce clean drinkable water for usages that don't need clean drinking water. Is that clear?
Yes, but one thing I want to clarify, which I didn't follow. So you said you're saying the water is, but I guess sorry. So if the water is treated to be drinkable, even if we're not drinking it, that's what you're saying. Under the current
Yeah,
model today.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
got it. Okay, so
And then the wastewater is designed for only one kind of water, of wastewater, but basically all the wastewaters are mixed. And that's where is another problem in our model, because then the treatment at the wastewater treatment plant is not complete. And so we throw back the treated water with a certain amount of pollutants that that we, that we don't handle.
understood. Okay, so that's kind of the drinking water side. And so if we go over to industry, so obviously most industrial processes use a lot of water to wash things, to make things in their processes. And so can you just give a quick little summary of how typically that's done, how most factories treat their water today that they use in their industrial processes, like the
So
model?
in the so basically, from the industry, you have two possibilities, or you use the municipal water, which is drinkable water coming to your factory, or you have access to a groundwater and you have your own treatment plant on site that will bring the water to the water quality that you need for your process. Okay. So that's the inlet water that comes into into an industrial site. And then the water is used in the process. So it can be an ingredient, it can be water for washing the machines, washing the production line. It can be water for heating, it can be water for cooling, you know. And those waters then will be sealed, and it will be wastewater. And this wastewater will go into, so you have two possibilities again. One possibility where the wastewater is similar to a municipal wastewater, and it goes directly to the municipal wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
Or the water is too polluted, and the factory has to pre-treat it before giving it back to the river or to the wastewater municipal treatment plant. Is that clear?
Yes. Got it. So when you look at, I know there's many problems around the way, in your mind, the way that we treat water and industrial fluents, but if you were to simplify it or summarize it, like in one way for the audience, how would you describe like the fundamental problem? Maybe the fundamental problem in industry and the fundamental problem on the drinking water side, or maybe it's the same fundamental problem. I don't know.
For me, the fundamental problem is that we consider water as an utility and as an infinite resource. So this is our main problem. And into the drinking water, on the drinking water side and also on the industrial side, water is considered as an utility and an infinite utility, and basically that's why we we are not considering our impact on the big cycle. Is that clear?
Yep. So the idea of just consume uh, under the auspice that, like you said, it's a utility, not a valuable resource.
Not a valuable resource, exactly.
Okay, so when we first met, I think one of the things that you said to me that really resonated, and hence why we're talking about this on Going Direct, is this idea of, which is the idea behind Inovaya, which we'll get into, but the idea of treating water at the source versus sending the water all the way around to all these different, through this aging piping system, into big centralized plants to treat the water. Obviously the theme at Going Direct being around decentralized production and a more decentralized real economy, this is highly relevant. So can you just give an overview for the audience of like what Inovaya does?
Yeah, of course. So Inovaya is designing small water treatment plants and wastewater treatment plants in order to uh, make smaller, and we design smaller systems to bring them directly where the water is needed, at the right quality and with the right treatment. Okay, so basically, what is our hypothesis? In order to we consider that water is a valuable resource, and this resource in time, because of climate change, because of human pollution, the availability of water will be unfair. Let's say it like that. In some areas, you will have too much water. In other, you will have uh, drought. You know. So basically, what we say, when we see what's happening, we have to move from a model where water is considered as an utility to a model where water is considered as a primary resource or something very valuable. So in order to make it very valuable, we have to reduce our consumption and what we take from the big water cycle, okay, and how we treat the big water cycle, and how can we be how instead of just taking and throwing, because by closing the loop, by giving um, another life to the water that we use before giving it back to the big cycle, it makes us more resilient. And in order to make us more resilient, we have to decentralize the water treatment plants. So instead of doing big water treatment plants, we do smaller water treatment plants next to a factory, next to a building, and we recreate the micro cycles. Mm-hmm. Instead of small cycles, we do micro cycles in the small cycle in order to um, to reduce our consumption of water. So that's what we do at Inovaya.
Okay, great. So to kind of summarize it is you create these mini, like you said, these mini wastewater or water treatment plants adjacent to where the water or close to where the water is being used. And then depending on what's inside that water, you have a variety of different
Treatments.
treatments to do that. And so obviously there's hardware involved, there's hard electronics involved, there's software, there's know-how on the science and R&D side, right, around membranes and water treatment. So if what is kind of Inovaya's specialty within that? Because I know you're building a full stack solution, but like at the core, what is your like the biggest value add?
Our biggest added value is that we have developed processes that are very robust, and those processes can be monitored online. So we don't need to be behind the water treatment plant. And when you do small scale systems, you need a very robust process and a very a very automated process. So that's our specialty. Okay, in order to make it possible in terms of quality, security, also. Okay, we need some security for the water. We need to be sure that the water is co- completely treated and with the right quality that we need, and also that we can monitor properly uh, in real time, and that's our specialty.
And obviously, there's all different models, right? When you're dealing with very large volumes of water or very small or somewhere in between. Can you just talk a little bit about kind of the segment of the market that you guys are addressing, both on industry and drinking water?
So basically, in order to have this decentralized approach, we are targeting only projects, and we work only on project on decentralized projects from 1 cubic meter an hour to, let's say, 20 cubic meter an hour maximum. Because if you are over 20 cubic meter an hour, that means that you're not anymore in a decentralized model, because there is no industrial process that uses so much water for the same process. It means that it's not decentralized anymore, you know?
Understood.
So basically, that's our sweet spot, and that's where we work, okay? In order to create that model.
And what industries are you working with typically? Just give us a couple examples.
So we work with the pharma industry, the cosmetic industry, the textile industry, with the food industry, okay? And we design from scratch, or also when a facility exists already, we close the loop with them. So basically, we make the treatment a better treatment at the entry, and also a better wastewater treatment, in order to make clear water or processed water out of the wastewater, so they can reuse it in their process. So we close the loop, and the idea is that what who is polluting the environment the most? It's the industry.
Mhm.
So our assumption is, by decentralizing, we push the industries to treat all their water and reuse it, and they don't throw it back to the environment. That's what we call the ZLD project, zero liquid discharge projects,
Mhm.
and those are very powerful. But uh, in order to make them economically viable, you have to make them decentralized.
Okay. So are you starting from scratch every time, or you created like you have like specific products, right? That you have actual like standardized machines, right? And then you just change kind of the guts of it, or talk to me about that.
So we have developed, as I told you, a process with different bricks, technological bricks that are standard,
Okay.
and then we it's like a Lego. When we need another brick, we put a new brick, or an additional brick, or we remove a brick if we don't need it. in the process. So we have industrialized bricks in order to respond to a huge variety of problems.
Okay, I got it. So modular IoT connected machines that are highly autonomous, and then you kind of, depending on what inputs coming in and all these other factors, then you're basically changing the brain of the machine, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Or the different bricks of the machine. What are you building?
And also the brain, because you have to make them work together. So you change a little bit the brain, but yeah,
Sure.
this is the modular thing.
So, from my understanding, so you're largely using mostly off the shelf parts, right? Which is like the magic comes in like the integration and the actual the knowledge of the filtration and um, the membrane technologies, correct?
Yeah, we use membrane technologies, but not only. We use also filters. We use also medias. We use different. Our core specialty is membrane filtration, nanofiltration, and ultrafiltration.
Okay.
But the idea is that we always combine bricks. For
Mhm.
us, membranes are a part of the brick, uh, a brick of the system. So basically, we build around it in order to make it to make it work and have the best solution for the water treatment.
Got it. So, like at the core, how would you describe what Inovaya is? Are you a manufacturer of machines? Are you an integrator of variety of technologies to make machines? I mean, kind of, yeah. How do you describe exactly what you do?
So we do, maybe the world leader in the water sector is Veolia. Okay, so basically we do what Veolia does, but for small water treatment plants. So we are an integrator. We are basically an integrator, and we hack existing technologies also,
Hmm.
or existing bricks to make them more robust, reliable,
Hmm.
and also automated. So this is very important.
So if so whether I'm a factory or a municipality or a real estate developer who's looking for a solution to deliver either drinking water or to treat and reuse industrial water in my industrial process, if I come to you in one of these industries that you mentioned you worked in, I mean, is is it custom every single time, or is like 70-80% of the machine the same core product, and then you're just changing 10 or 20%?
Basically, we can say that 80% of the time it's the same problems. We it's a customized, it's always customized,
Hmm.
but it's very similar.
I understand.
80% of the time.
And so obviously this is an important, um, water is the most critical resource to to preserve. But whether we like it or not, especially in the industry side, if it doesn't make business sense or there's no ROI for them, or they're not forced 100% to do it, they're not going to do it. So, have you been able to prove out like a compelling ROI case for your industrial customers, or because you are treating it at the source versus doing something more centralized, or I don't know, just walk me through the economics a little bit.
Yeah. So I will give you an example that I'm I'm able to talk about because we have this agreement with this company. The company is called Pierre Fabre. Pierre Fabre it's a cosmetic and pharma company in France. It's one of the French leaders, and we work with them on their factories in order to make ZLD projects. So when I compare the price of their investment and the cost of the water at the end of the day with the cost of water in France, basically the ROI is zero. So you don't have any ROI. But the CEO of Pierre Fabre was was very inter- the discussion we had was very interesting, because for them, basically, if if they don't have any more water, so not enough water, it can affect their process completely. And for every day of not having water, it's 1.5 million euros lost. So basically, the ROI is like 5 days for them
But how often are they not having water? That's
every year.
and that's who's and how why don't they have water? Because of the
Because they have water restrictions,
restrictions.
because I told you, because of the climate change, the water, so we the water availability in some areas
Mm-hmm.
will be down, and in some
Sure.
areas you will have too much water,
Sure.
and in some areas you will have the quality of water which will be affected. We talk about a lot in France about the PFAS.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have heard of
Yeah,
them,
of course.
because in the US they were forbidden, and it's now also in France. But um, the water quality is completely changing. Um, you can because of human usage and human uh, human pollution,
Mm-hmm.
but also because of climate change. We, why this pollution was not visible before? It's because it was diluted, because we had more water. Now that we have less water, this pollution occurs and comes and becomes visible because it's not diluted anymore. You know, so yeah, it's the water availability, the ROI for the industry now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pure. It's all about resiliency at this point, right? So if you know, with any of this, it's the question is the folks that are paying attention to this and understand that making an investment in this creates a level of resiliency that it's almost like an insurance policy in a way, right?
Exactly. We work also with insurance companies.
Mm-hmm.
We have an insurance company at our board.
Okay.
And this insurance company, for instance, says to their customers who are industrials, you have to be resilient with your water, or your insurance policy will go up. Because if you have a production stop because of if your production stops because of water, because you have a lack of water, basically I cannot give you an insurance for that,
Yeah,
if you
that's
don't
interesting.
have a resilient model.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
So
it's
basically
a
the
risk.
ROI, the ROI is like, it's magic when the CEOs of those industries understands that,
Mm-hmm.
and stop comparing water only by their price. That's why I'm telling you, we have a real shift
Mm-hmm.
in the last years
Okay.
on how water is seen, from a utility to a resource. And that's the true value of water.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing with anything, right? It's what happened with COVID and supply chains. It's like no one pays attention to it until they don't have it, right?
Exactly.
It's like, right. So,
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, it makes what you're talking about makes sense to build resiliency in, but like the Pier Fob factory, they're like, well, I don't really care until I actually start to have water restrictions,
Exactly.
and then they move. Then they move real quick.
Everyone is moving very, very quick.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And basically it's a world problem. So
Yeah,
it's
sure,
not only a French problem.
sure. How did you tell us a little bit about just your background and what brought you to water and why you decided to work, basically dedicate your life to it at this point?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm half Syrian and half Romanian. I was born in Romania. I was raised in France. I lived in Syria. And something has shocked me when I was younger, is that in Romania and Syria, water is very precious. In Damascus, we had only 2 hours of water per day. So we took the water, we worshipped water in those countries where you don't have enough water. In Romania, it was about the quality. So basically, water was a real subject, in those countries. And when I arrived in France, it was like, wow, water at the tap. It was, you know, open bar for water. So basically, this was a shock for me, a cultural shock when I arrived in France. And secondly, so I'm a pharmacist. I've done pharmaceutical studies in France. I'm an industrial pharmacist, to be clear. I used to work in pharmaceutical processes in order to produce drugs, food supplements, cosmetics also. And when the war started in Syria, I wanted to help, so I volunteered for an NGO. And
What year was this? Just around what year?
2012. In 2012, I went as a volunteer for an NGO bringing drugs to refugee camps. And that's where, I had a slap in my face. It was like, I'm useless. The real problem was water access. I mean, people were dying because of water access, not because they needed like painkillers. They just needed water. And that's when I said, okay, I come from a family that has dedicated their life to saving people. My father and mother were doctors, and I have it in my guts. So when I saw that, I said, okay, I have to dedicate my life to something that is greater than me. And when you dig into the problem of water, you can only fall in love with this problem, because it's a passionate problem. It's a passion, I cannot sleep well if I couldn't sleep well if I didn't do something about that. Starting on it was a life story. So I was shocked when I arrived in France. I lived in restricted areas with restricted water, in Syria, for instance. So it was a path. And when I arrived in that refugee camp, that was the slap, the final slap, saying, now you have to dedicate your life to this cause. And when you dig and you dig and you dig, you see the problem is not only because of the lack of drinking water. It's because of how we treat the water. And that's why we have called this company Inovaya also. Inovaya comes from the contraction of innovation, and Aya is the Sumerian goddess of water. Because we don't worship anymore water. To be very clear,
Sure.
we put our feces in the water. So to be very clear, it's for me, it's something like, man, we have to preserve that resource, because without water in 3 days you're dead. So that's how I have dedicated my life for this subject.
No, it's interesting. It's a fascinating one because of all the things that you just said, like from like how important it is to treat it as a true resource. And then the gamification, a little bit of it is, okay, then how do you figure out this model to where incentive structures for companies and corporations are to actually change their practices, right? It's like that's the compelling one to me, which is in the hard piece about it. But I think what you were saying, obviously over in Europe, water restrictions and rules and regulations around dumping water illegally and all that, it's just getting more and more strict, which it should be.
Everywhere. It should be everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, for sure. Everywhere.
Because it's very simple. I mean, if you don't do that now, you will pay 10 years later. We see it with the PFAS problem. We see it with different pollutions. We didn't talk about agriculture, but the intensive agriculture it's a catastrophe. Catastrophe. So your approach through water and how you treat water, and how you have your relation to water, can only be decentralized. If it's not decentralized, you cannot have a proper approach, and there is no universal solution. You have to modificate a little bit the process to bring the right thing. But for me, what is scalable is the approach.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that you can only answer to a problem by being aware, clearly aware of the problem and the consequences of this problem. So you have to be close to it. If you try to have the same solution for everyone, such as we have in the centralized model, you will miss something. You will miss something in terms of quantity or quality. Is that clear?
Yeah, but that one would say that the centralized model is the model that scales. It's the decentralized model is the one that doesn't scale. Why do you think that's not the case?
Why do I think it's not the case?
Yeah, it's because it doesn't. It's the opposite. The whole point of the big, large centralized model is you're doing such volumes that you're bringing down your unit cost to treat that water.
Exactly, but you do it bad.
Yeah, well, that
So so
this is
so
true.
so it's not scalable, you know?
Well, this is the interesting question. It's a values question, right?
It's scalable for, you know, it's
A shitty
scalable for
solution, a
a
shitty solution.
shitty solution for a short period of time, and at the end of the day, you will pay for your non-correct treatment in time. In terms of health, because you create problems such as cancers, such as acute problems such as bacteria developing in your body, and you create also environmental problems because now it's a worldwide problem. The agricultural problem, it creates algae into the rivers, and those algae are killing all the ecosystems because they remove all the oxygen. So basically, what I'm telling you is this centralized model is killing us and killing the environment. So it's not scalable. Sorry.
So this is the whole premise, right? It's this idea of, so I'm going to play the devil's advocate, right? So the centralized model in the Industrial Revolution made so many things possible that are pretty remarkable, right? But I think what you're getting at, which is just the reality, which is why I will swing back to centralized 100%, is this is all new. This the last 60 or 70 years, this is all new, and we never have the information that we have now, and we don't know what the effects are till the long-term effects are till decades after, right? Which is everything that you're saying, right?
Exactly.
It's everything that you're saying. And so as we're more informed, as we get more data and information around the illness and cancer and all this other stuff, at the same time, there's water restrictions. And at the same time, other rules and regulations, these things are all kind of coming together to that points to what you were saying, which is a decentralized, which is a decentralized approach. So I get it. Okay, cool.
Correct.
We got a couple last things for you as we're wrapping up here. So I call this rapid fire. Okay, so I apologize because I know English isn't your first language.
No, sorry.
But anyways, whatever. We can go a little slow.
Let's do it.
Can you give me one? You just give me one name of someone's work in your life. It could be a personal, professional thing that you follow that really has a big influence or inspires you.
One person?
Yeah. That comes to mind off the top of your head.
Jean-Marc Jancovici. He's a French physicist.
Okay.
Physicist, yeah, physics. He is a world specialist in energy and atomic energy, nuclear energy. This guy is a rock star in the scientific world in France, and I love his approach. He has an approach that is a systemic approach or a decentralized approach about energy. So yeah, this guy inspires me because it's very important always to think about what would be the impact of what you do all the time. So there is no positive impact on human in human activity. It's bullshit who says that there is a positive impact.
What do you mean by that? A positive impact?
Everything you do, uses energy, so it
I
has a
got you.
negative impact on
I
environment.
understand.
So
Yeah.
basically, our what we have to do, and that's why decentralized models are robust and more efficient, you know, because you think about your external negativities. So what you will do in terms of energy, in terms of treatment, water treatment, etc., etc. So he's inspiring me on this side a lot. Uh, the last podcast I've listened to is called 50 States. It's a French American podcast talking about the 50 states of the US. And it's a 20-minute podcast. And it has 50 episodes talking about the American states and talking of the history of the state and also on funny facts on those states.
Great. Who should I invite next to have a conversation with the Going Direct?
Who should you invite?
Who would you like to
Someone who
see having a conversation?
I would like you to have a conversation with someone who you know or not.
No, could be anyone that you want to have you want to hear talk about some of the similar themes around Going Direct.
Let's say a French or American,
Whatever you want.
whatever I want. Uh, hmm. If you have the possibility to talk to uh um ho- I don't know, to Meadows, maybe the guy who has done the guy who is behind the Meadows report. Have you heard about him?
No.
He does the Meadows report is talking about limited resources in the world. It was a report in the 70s,
Okay.
and
Middles, like Middl.
Meadows. Uh, let me check the Dennis Meadows.
Meadows. Meadows. Okay.
Meadows.
Got
Yeah.
it. Dennis. Okay, great. Got it.
If you can invite him, it's great.
Great. And then last and not least, if people want to learn a little bit more about Inovaya or reach out to you, how do they find you online?
They can reach me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And also they can reach me by email, by whatever they want, or go to our website and let's talk.
Great. Well, we'll put links in the show notes. Khaled, thank you, my man. I appreciate it. Hopefully the first of many, but I wanted to. I thought it was important to get some foundational knowledge out into the world about the precious resource of water and what you guys are up to.
Thank you so much, Jordan. It was a pleasure to discuss with you and to give you some more insights about water and this precious resource.
Cool. Thanks, my man.